everyone who is watching. Welcome, Kamry Monet. She is the host of Mom Goals podcast, as well as a speaker. She's an author, she's a creator, and she just gave birth to her son in September. He was 7 pounds, 10 ounces, and this was her 4th natural birth, but it was her first home birth. So welcome to the show, Kamry.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. So tell me a little bit about yourself.
So I am a mom of 5, and like you just said, I'm a speaker, author, creator. But my biggest title, my best title is being a mom. Okay. It's my favorite thing to do. Yeah, and I've also been married for 10 years. And also I just had like you just said, I just had my 4th natural birth.
Yeah.
It's amazing. And I just love all things motherhood.
Love it. Me too.
Yeah.
So let me tell you a little bit of this small story. And the reason why I want to tell you this story is because it sparked a question that I have for you. And so I had this client, and she was giving birth at home, and her birth was just happening super fast, super quickly. And so she got into the tub right in time. Like her first few contractions was like 3 hours before she got into the tub. And so she gets into the water, and baby comes out without pushing, just full body, boop, right out.
Wow.
And yeah. And I see that a lot in home births. Like moms not having to push, baby just slips out. FER is what they call it, fetal ejection reflex. And I think has to do with like the environment and feeling safe and feeling at home. And so that's why it sparked that question for me, for you, when I watched your birth. And I wanted to know, you had 4 natural births. So what was the reason, and why did you decide to have a home birth for your 4th?
Well, I had always wanted to have a home birth. And if I could just be completely honest, it's not, it was always finances that would stop me from completely doing a home birth. So I would always, because, the insurance doesn't cover a home birth, but they will cover a birth in the birthing center. But I finally got to that point to where I was like, you know what? I'm not going to keep looking at the cost, because I know that this experience will be worth it. I know it will be so worth it. And also, this is our first home. This is me and my husband's first home.
Oh, congrats.
So I felt like, thank you. I felt like this was the perfect time to just go ahead and have my home birth. And also I'm probably not going to be having any more kids. I was like, oh, I have to do it. I have to do it. But it was amazing. And like you said, just that feeling, that safe, like that, just feeling super safe is what, for me, it was key to just having an amazing birth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that it was your 4th. So you're like, this is it. Like everything that I really, really wanted has to be in this birth.
Yep.
And it's a beautiful home too.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So, what do you know about oxytocin?
So I do know that oxytocin is the love hormone, right?
Yeah. So it is a love hormone. It's released during cuddling, during intimacy, and I'll let you guys know more about it for the viewers who are watching. A lot of people know about oxytocin, some people don't, right? But basically, it's released also when we are in labor as well, guys, which is awesome because it's a feel-good hormone. So it makes you feel good, and it also helps to strengthen your contractions. So the more oxytocin you have, the stronger your contractions are, which is a good thing because it'll dilate your cervix faster. And so you, queen over here, you were super busy during your birth. You were doing your kids' hair. You were prepping the food, like you had the whole snack bar. But it also goes to show how like phenomenal women are, like the amount of things that we can do while we're in labor, giving birth to another baby. And you're still organizing, like you put the menu of everything to eat, the quesadillas. You're like, listen.
When my kids got home, I did not want them to be asking questions or what are we going to eat or what's our after school snack, and like everything was there so there are no questions, and they love to know what's like on the menu. So that's where I got that from.
I like that. Is it like in your fridge or it's like?
Yeah, it's on the fridge, and it's always there. So I always, most of the times I have that filled out for the entire week. Because the kids just like to know what's coming up next. They don't want to have to ask. And I'm okay with not having as many questions.
Yeah. And you're also like big on productivity as well. Like you did the mom Bible, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So those are the things that some of your little tips and tricks to help keep the house organized.
Yeah.
Love that. You were busy. And so now my question is, oxytocin, feel-good hormone. So like kissing, cuddling, dancing, walking. What was your main source of oxytocin while you were in labor?
I would say my main source was the time with my husband. I don't know. Also, like I had a lot going on around me with my husband, and then with the toddler, my 2-year-old.
Yeah.
He wanted to be all over me the entire time. And so I know if you remember that one part where I was laying down, I was doing the mile circuit and he was climbing on my back.
Yeah.
Sliding down. Like it's like something, but just them two just being there. But you know what? No. Let me stick to the question because you said the main source of oxytocin was my husband. Aww. With him giving me massages, and I used my labor to actually work on my marriage, believe it or not.
Okay, hold up. Can you like go a little deeper into that? What do you mean by that?
So let me see, maybe I don't know how early before, but I know before I went into labor, me and my husband had a conversation about just the way we communicate with each other. And especially me, like during pregnancy, those hormones, it gets real. Like sometimes you're not mindful of how you talk to somebody else when you're in pain.
Yeah.
Or when you're just like when you're going through it. And so I was just always tired sometimes, and I would be just real moody, and I would snap. Okay. And so when he pointed that out to me, I was like, okay, I want to change, and I do not want to be that mom and that wife that every time, like maybe it's that time of the month, or maybe every time I'm pregnant, that I just yell and scream at everybody and use my hormones as an excuse. So I said, I'm going to change, right? And I was like, I'm serious this time. Like, I'm going to go head first at just changing the way I speak to everybody. And I said, the best time to test myself, or to just not even test myself, but to push myself to do better is when I'm in labor, because that's one of the most, that's the biggest time to where you are experiencing such a high level of pain that it's like, okay, I understand when you're snappy, but I was like, no, I'm not going to do it. And so that entire time I was speaking to him so nicely, babe, could you do this? Like, even right before I pushed him out, the baby out, I was like, babe, no, massage right there. When he would get it wrong, I'm like, no, not right there, babe. No, don't do it that way. And I feel like because of the way that I spoke to him, he was even more supportive, more than ever, than with the other kids. And it's just that connection that we had, that it was on a whole nother level. And even now, but just because of how I was during my birth, I feel like we grew a lot closer. And now I'm still not snapping and not moody, and I communicate better. It's like, wow. Yeah, just because of that whole experience. So I know that's kind of weird or different, but yeah.
I love that.
I use any situation to challenge myself to do better.
To grow.
Yeah.
Yes. I really, really like that. And it almost gives me goosebumps, like thinking about it, because we almost kind of run over the idea that the way that we give birth can be transformational, not just for us, but our families as well. And like, while you were talking, I was thinking about my most recent birth and how it brought my family even closer, because I gave birth unassisted.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so we had the kids like by the bathtub. My husband was like there with me. And because we did it together as a family, we almost feel like we're like walking around like we're superheroes. Like when we went back out into the real world, they're like, "Oh, you guys had the baby?" Like, yeah, like we had a baby, like we did that. Like, wow. Like we did it right there in our house. And they're like, "What?" And like now it almost feels like a superpower that we have. But yeah, that is really cool. That's really cool that you use that moment to bond even closer with your husband. Love that. I wanted to know, what was that deciding factor? So you had 4 natural births. So your other births, the 3 other one was at the birth center. Okay. So was there like, so I'll tell you a bit of a story. So with my 3rd son, Hero, right before I was going to have a home birth as well. And the midwife, she came over to do, you know, when they check around the house to get the layout of the land and get familiar with the space. I sat down with her because I wanted to make sure she was like approved of the birth plan. Like, I need to know, like, we're not going to have any surprises around here. And so I was talking to her and she was like, almost, we weren't vibing. We weren't connecting. Like, she was asking me about the birth plan. And I was like, I just want to make sure that we're not going to do any cervical checks, which is obviously fine if moms want to do cervical checks. However, I personally don't like cervical checks because I already know how much I'm dilated based off of how far apart my contractions are. And so, and I also, you know, when you check the cervix, it kind of irritates the cervix as well. So I kind of like it to happen naturally. Right. So I mentioned that to her. And she kind of already knew about this, but you know how sometimes midwives, they change towards the end, right? And so I just mentioned it to her again to see how she was going to react. And she kind of just like pretend like I wasn't even talking to her. Right. And then she was like, "Oh yeah, well, we have like our policies and stuff. So we'll just wait till like the day." I was like, okay. But it was in that moment where I kind of I already knew I wanted to give birth unassisted, but it was in that very moment that I knew, like, she's not going to be at my birth. And so that's why I wanted to ask you, what was your deciding factor? What was your moment where you knew, you kind of shared already, but was there a point in time where like something happened in your life where you're like, no, like this is it. I'm giving birth at home.
You know what? Oh, wait. Let me go back. So when I gave birth to my toddler now, Cruz.
Yes.
Thank you. My experience was not the way that I wanted it to go.
Okay.
And if I'm honest, I feel like, well, you know what? No, that was the first one that I wasn't satisfied with, because I had given my midwife a birth plan. I let her know, and it was the main midwife that was over the birth center. But then another midwife delivered, and I don't think that she knew my birth plan. But this birth, the second, the one before this last one, it was so special to me because this was my rainbow baby. I had 2 miscarriages before this. And so Mama Bear was kicked in like full drive. Okay. I was straight Mama Bear.
Okay.
And when I went, I knew, and also let me make this point, is that I also wanted to have an unassisted birth because it was just something.
Really?
Yeah. Only reason I didn't is because my husband was not, he wasn't in agreement with it. He's not very hands-on when it comes to the labor and birth. Well, just really just like delivering the baby. He was so against it. That's the only reason. I tried to stay at home as long as I could. And he literally had to like grab my arm, pull me down the hallway, because at the time we were in an apartment. He had to pull me down the hallway and like, you are going to this birth center. So I'm already just like, ugh, I just want to be home. Like, I just want to be here. But so I got to the birth center. By the time I got there, it was time to push. I got in that tub and I felt so empowered. Like I had already knew. And the midwife was also, she had somebody else delivering in the next room as well. Another lady was in the room in labor. So she left me to go check on another lady when I first got there. So I said, this is my moment. I can get my unassisted birth at the birth center, but nobody is here. And so I got in that tub and everything in me I just bared down and I pushed his head out. But then they found, I guess one of the assistants, she saw like, oh my goodness, she pushed her head out. So now all of the midwife and 2 assistants come in there and they completely messed up my experience to where I was like, y'all, my birth plan said, don't touch my baby. Like I am going to deliver him myself. If I need guidance, then help me. Yeah. So the midwife goes to reach her hand to touch his head. I didn't want anybody touching him. Like I wanted my touch to be the first. Yeah. Like I didn't want him to feel anybody but mama. Mm-hmm. And they insisted. And it was almost like a little battle. She kept saying, move your hand. I can't get to. And I looked at her like, lady, no. No. So anyway, that was the moment when I felt like they were not serious about my wishes on how I wanted to birth. I was like, that's it. I'm not. And apparently she doesn't know that, or she doesn't feel like I know enough to be able to deliver my own baby, you know? Yeah. And so thank God I got the midwife that I had just this last birth. She was all for it. She was all for it. Yeah. So it was just respecting my wishes and the way I wanted to birth, I guess is why I really wanted a home birth.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm so happy I asked you that question. I felt the same way with my first birth. That same thing, like literally the exact words that you said, like when they came in to touch the head and I was like, no, don't touch, don't touch, don't touch. Like, I felt that.
Yeah.
If you were talking to a friend or a family member, right? And this was going to be the last time that you spoke to them right before they're about to give birth naturally at home. Mm-hmm. What words of wisdom, what teachable moment would you share with them?
I would share with her that, well, with the friend, that your body is going to do exactly what it's supposed to do. Nice. And to trust it. Because that's what I wish somebody would have told me. That your body when you just listen to your body, it can, and trust it. Just have that full trust in this is the way my body is supposed to work. Those negative thoughts, when they come, when you fall back on, but I